Hi, and thank you very much for letting us present our project in this conference. We are really, really happy for this. And I'm Francesca Granone, and I'm an associate professor at the University of Stavanger in Norway. And I will present you a project that I'm developing with other that works with me. Our project has the title Feuerstein's Optimistic Alternative about Cognitive Development from Literature to Practice. And I will present reflections concerning the results of a literature review about analogical thinking in children with Down syndrome. Here can you find my contacts and my Twitter contacts. The project consists of 3 parts which are already under development. The result of this partial project from the Foundation for the Future Development of the Come In project, which is the overall project. So the Come In project is divided until now in 3 under project, and the result for each under project is the starting point for the project Come In that we will develop from now on. The aim of the main project is to design and develop activities for teachers, specialists, and families in order to support cognitive development and memory in children with Down syndrome. These activities are designed through the use of the mediation approach defined by the Feuerstein method. As a support for a more appropriate definition of the activities, the methods of inclusive research will be put in place. This means that we will involve people with Down syndrome at the steering group level to discuss together the content of the activities. This is possible, and this is something that is growing and growing in England, but is starting also here now in Norway, thanks to OSPI and Ottedals. And those 2 researchers will cooperate with us. Up to now, the University of Stavanger, the University of the North are involved. Both universities are in Norway. Mediation ARCA is involved and is the first specific Italian center for the implementation of the Feuerstein approach, and ICSEM, the International Center for Studies on Educational Methodologies. But as I will show you at the end of the presentation, our network is growing and we are taking contact with other realities. And I hope that after this presentation, many of you will take contact with us for being part of this project. As you can see, the main project Come In is divided in 3, bottom, a blog, and an up project. The bottom subsection represents a project related to the evaluation of the feasibility of applying a mediation method for children under 3 years of age. The results are presented through an article of which you can see the difference about the difference and the similar part of the Feuerstein approach and an approach that is used here in Norway, who is called the Karlstad model. So the idea is to base our study observing how Karlstad model is applied from with children who have less than 1 year old to understand if and how the Feuerstein approach can be used with the same age. In addition to this, or as a result of this, courses have been developed from Mediation ARCA to parents, teachers, and practitioners with the aim of helping them to understand how to apply a mediational approach in formal or informal situations with children who are between 0 and 6 years of age. In the same period of this, we are developing another project which is called ANFA Up, and is specifically interested in analyzing analogical thinking. And why analogical thinking? Because literature shows that working memories can be considered a moderator of training on transfer, and transfer is an analogical approach in children, and this can be a key to strengthen the part of memory that is working better in children with Down syndrome. Now we'll discuss this. Related to UNFAP is also a literature review that we developed for analyzing precise terms that we think are important for taking care of a precise development of activities. And for this reason, I say we needed to search in literature for identifying what was real the key for building up activities that can be based on the strength of children with Down syndrome in order to increase and improve the part that is more weak. The third part is related to a blog that we have published. It's called The Optimistic Alternative. And in this blog, we present the scientific results present in literature, and we suggest some activities for non-specialized audience. Always linked with the aim, I presented at the international conference, ECERA 2021, a TED Talk, who had the aim to highlight how networking and knowledge related to a scientific approach is important in order to support in the best way possible children with Down syndrome in their development. What I will present now is our research work about terms, specific terms that we wanted to identify in order to focalize on what is important for developing good activities. So the first question was, what does the literature say about strengths and weaknesses of children with Down syndrome? Strength is more about imitation and social learning, using gesture to communicate. Weaknesses are more related to language development, but for us, the most important part was specific domain of cognitive functioning and recall memory. So our question was, what do we know? Which are the hidden potential? How can those potential be unlocked? So based on those questions, we have started with the main question. What do we know? What is the content that we can find in literature that is important for us? So the question, of course, was, what does it mean, cognitive function? And we found different definitions. IQ intelligence was used before, and is more related to performance, how children perform when they have a task that they have to solve. Specific question, specific answer. But now, the more interesting focus is related to developmental quotient, and it reflects overall development across a range of domains as observed in naturalistic context. And a new scale has been defined specifically for children with Down syndrome, and it's called Arizona Cognitive Test Battery for Down syndrome. And this cognitive battery holds considerable promise in enhancing our understanding of cognitive functioning in children with Down syndrome and may shed new light into their ability. So the important part, our aim is, as you say, to identify what is really specifically important for children with Down syndrome in order to work on those specific aspects and not just in a general way. Cognitive functioning in individuals with Down syndrome are influenced by other factors, experience, early intervention, but what research underlines is that many programs have been created with the goal of improving cognition and other functional outcomes in children with Down syndrome, and empirical findings, not theory, but findings, indicate that early intervention improved cognitive functioning for children with Down syndrome. And this is not just one article, this is written in many articles. So we thought, okay, we are in the good path and we can just go on this. But the idea was, we have to define activities about cognition, but what does it mean, cognition? So we analyzed the literature and we found that different terms are used. Cognition, for example, can be defined as the mental process involving in acquiring and processing information that are necessary for everyday living. It enables the individual to solve problems, make plans. It's not equivalent to intelligence. General intelligence is the best individual predictor of achievement across academic domains, including mathematics. Executive function refers to the collection of cognitive skills, inhibition, working memory, updating, task set switches, switching attention, that give rise to goal-directed behavior. So there is a goal that had to be reached. So executive function is how the goal can be reached, how the different function works in order to reach the goal. But what is interesting for us is, and what we prefer to use, is cognitive functioning, cognitive functions, because it refers to multiple mental abilities, including learning, thinking, reasoning, remembering, problem solving, decision making, and attention. And what is presented is that cognitive function is used to describe a more general part of intelligence. There is general intelligence inside, but there is also fluid cognitive abilities that refer to reasoning or thinking, processing speed, one's ability to solve problems in novel solutions. But in addition, there is also what is called crystallized cognitive abilities, which is referred to acquired knowledge. So we choose to focalize on cognitive functions. If you remember, I told you that weak parts are some specific cognitive function, some specific memory, and language. About memory, it's not so useful to say that people with Down syndrome has problem with memory, because it's not so clear, but it's important to specifically analyze which type of memory. And memory can be divided in sensory memory, which is a relatively automatic form of memory, which lasts several seconds and is connected to verbal memory, the storage of phonological information, visual memory, storage of color, shade, movement, and location information, and spatial memory, enable an organism to acquire a mental representation about spatial layout in the environment and to navigate effectively in the environment. After that, there is the short-term memory, working memory, and long-term memory. Short-term memory means the capacity to keep a small amount of information in mind in an active, readily available state for a short period of time. Short means few seconds, 1 minute. Working memory can be defined as the temporary storage and manipulation of stimuli representations that are no longer available to senses. Long-term memory refers to recall of information after a delay interval during which the child's attention is focused away from the target items. And here we use some pictures taken from articles that represent sensory memory, short-term memory, long-term memory, how it's connected, which is the part in each part, sensory memory, working memory, long-term memory, how we can design the working memory and the long-term memory. And what you can see, the working memory, for example, is divided in 2 parts, can be represented as divided in 2 parts. One is related to the verbal short-term memory, the other to the visual short-term memory. And take this in mind because I will present what the literature says. And after, long-term memory can be divided in 2 parts, explicit or implicit. And I will show you again something interesting that is presented in literature. What literature says that Down syndrome is associated with particular poor verbal short-term performance. But implicit memory appears to be less effective. And more than that, the visual spatial short-term memory is better than verbal memory, making the ability to learn from visual information a relative strength. And the literature says this can and should be used to support weaker verbal process. So how? This is our goal. So as I said, we chose cognitive function as focus, and for memory, we chose to focalize on specific part of the memory. First, if we choose cognitive functions, it is easy to connect to Feuerstein studies, because Feuerstein proposes a classification of cognitive functions divided in input, elaboration, and output. And this means, this is just an example, but this means that each type of function can be connected with the moment in which the learning process is. Can be in the starting point, in the development point, or in the output, so talking, presenting the results. And looking into literature, what is said is that strategies that may help to develop the working memory system need to include activities to improve phonological loop function, improve remembering of list of items, improve attention, and increase processing capacity. And if we take a look about what presents Feuerstein in the classification of cognitive function, we can see that two, for example, are related to attention, increase of the attention span and focus of attention. One can be connected to the phonological loop and is increase of verbal skills. And one can be connected to the efficiency and remembering a list of items, knowledge of logical progression of events. So there are articles that present, for example, some activities that can be used specifically to remember, and those activities are related to grouping or organization. In one of our 3 under project, we studied, as I said, structures and analogical thinking, and now I will show you why. Because when you think to reality and when you think about things, every one of us does a classification. So there is something is similar, something is different. And when you identify something that is similar, you can think as a class. And for example, we can think about many problems. And if we are in a class with different problems and we are able to solve one problem, the question is, can I use the same way of losing a situation to another situation which is similar? This is the analogical. So the idea is that, can I remember more if I apply these strategies to analyze things or situations? And of course, the idea is to use the visual method to classify in order to have a better remembering of what I see or what I analyze. But also, literature presents different parts of analogical thinking, reasoning, and just really short, but analogical reasoning is a fundamental aspect of human cognition, and literature said that people, even young children, engage spontaneously in analogical reasoning to make sense of unfamiliar situations. And literature presents 2 types of analogical thinking: the verbal, both sources and target are words, and the task required finding the relation between them in order to choose the other pair of words correctly. But it's also a non-verbal analogical thinking that consists of visual patterns, pictures, paired by specific features. And as you can imagine, the aim is to focalize on non-verbal analogical thinking. And what literature says is that Down syndrome adults did not differ from typically developing children, matched on expressing a verbal ability, intransitivity, and non-verbal analogical thinking. They differ in categorical reasoning, classical verbal, analogical, and short-term memory. So this is really a strength that should be used for developing activities. how can those potentials be unlocked? What we have identified in our literature review is, in summary, the importance of mediation approach, and we are really focused on using, it's not the only one, but it's really effective, using the first-time approach. Another important point is the importance of teachers and family. And I mean parents and siblings, because now in a mediational approach, because now a lot of articles are coming out with the description of how important the role of the parent is and how important the role of the sibling is. And this is really something interesting for us. And our idea to develop a blog is to let all the people, parents, and no specific audience to know how and what can be done in the most easy way possible. The third part is importance of the consular point of view, and this is what is presented in, as I said, in England, but in here in Norway, in an article really important that is translated in ICANN and is written by a researcher, and a researcher who has Down syndrome, to underline that be part of the society and having the possibility to say, to have a meaning in the decision about activities or technology that have to be used with people with the same disability is really important, because they have a point of view that I don't have, but might have maybe. So our project COMIN is at the aim to define activities related to cognitive function, non-verbal analogical thinking, visual short memory, implicit long-term memory, the first-time mediated learning experience, and inclusive research. So we desire to involve counselors from the field of practice, other partners in research, counselors with Down syndrome in our research, in the designing and shaping activities. We want to disseminate those activities through books, articles, we are already doing this, and the blog, public blog for reaching parents and non-specialized audience. So who are we until now? As I said, University of Stavanger, University of Nord, Mediation ARCA, International Center for Studies on Education Methodology, but we have started a discussion with Högskola i Østfold for inclusive research, the Foundation Don Carlo Gnocchi in Italy, and the National Network for Down syndrome. And I really invite you to take contact with me through the blog or through my email for letting me know if you are interested in becoming a counselor with Down syndrome in our project, a parent who want to experiment those activities, a researcher who want to give your meaning and your opinion in those, in the development of those activities, or a practitioner who want to try it out. So please contact me at my email or through the blog of the Mystic Alternative if you're interested in receiving more information and being part of the steering group.